governor signing something on Friday afternoon.
Okay, we'll call to order now the Tuesday, February 6th, 2024 meeting of the Liberty Lake City Council. I want to thank those of you participating in person tonight here in chambers, as well as those watching live on Zoom, and those who will be joining us via video recording at a later time. For those of you online, we've switched to a webinar format. So here in chambers, as well as those of you who would like to participate online, you will remain an attendee unless you'd like to make a citizen comment, and at that time, we will promote you to a panelist. So we'll have several opportunities for citizen comment tonight. Before we get to the agenda, we will start with our invocation given by Councilmember Spencer, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for this wonderful day that we've been blessed with today, and we're indeed grateful for the chance that we have to live in this beautiful city. We're so thankful for the opportunity that we have to come together and counsel together and work together as citizens in Liberty Lake. We pray for thy blessings to be upon us this night, that we may make wise decisions with regards to the different affairs of the city, and we pray that thou will help us to remain cool, calm, and collected. And we pray for these blessings this night in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, again, welcome everyone. We will proceed with roll calls, starting with Councilmember Van Orman.
Here.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
I'm here.
Councilmember Cargill's here. Mayor Kaminskis is here with us,
Here.
working hard in Olympia. Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
All right, everyone's present and accounted for. Thank you all very much. We will now move on to agenda approval. Get a motion to approve the agenda or any changes that would like to be made.
I move to go ahead and move out of general business A and N and move it to general business action items 11.
Councilmember Van Orman, did you say A and N?
A and N.
A
Yes.
as in Amy and N as in Nancy.
Correct.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
Oh, no, you're in.
And Van-
I'm fine.
Okay, all those in favor of moving items 10A and 10N to items 11A and B, is that correct, Councilmember Van Orman?
That is correct.
Okay, please say aye.
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 All right, motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Dunn.
Paul, I think you might
Oh, Councilmember.
I'd like to make a motion to move, C and D, and C and D, into general business. So I guess that would be 11 C and D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other ones that the council would want to move under 11?
P is in Patrick.
Say it one more time. Councilmember.
Item P is in Patrick.
P,
Also,
thank
I'd
you.
like to see moved to general business.
Okay. And remind me which ones you said.
C and D.
C and D, thank you.
Yeah, C and D.
All right, so C, D, and P moving to general business items, which would become C, D, E. Any discussion?
Need a second? Is there a second?
Second?
Yeah, Dan.
I made a motion.
yeah.
So somebody else second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. When we get there, I'll need some help remembering all of those. A, N, C, D, and P. Okay. All right,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
can I ask a favor? When we do get to that point, we've got a couple of folks that are joining us from the East Coast to talk about item what was 10N. Can we move that to the top?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any objection to that? No. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have an amended agenda. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dunn, second by Councilmember Spencer. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. We have an agenda now. We will move on to citizen comments now. If you have a citizen comment, as we mentioned, if you're online, please just raise your hand and we will get to your comment as soon as we can. We also have the opportunity for those of you in chambers to fill out these cards. If you've done so, thank you. We will take them one by one here. Please remember you have 3 minutes. Please let us know if you're a resident of the city. Please keep your comments, of course, respectful and to a specific topic if you have a specific topic in mind, and we will have no back and forth with the council. This is just your opportunity to give us your thoughts on anything that's on your mind. So we'll start with Dennis Scott.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I may have a target on my back after I say what I'm gonna say, but I watch a lot of news and watch what's going on, especially in the larger cities. The police, they get a lot of illegals. They house them in hotels and airports and schools. And all the while they do that, crime has increased in every one of those communities. I don't know if the city has a plan to address the issue if we begin to experience the same thing. But I surely do not want to see illegals in this town defecating on our streets and sidewalks and committing more crime than what we already face. So I would hope the city council addresses some type of a plan in the future. And obviously, I hope that you don't defund the police. We need every single one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Kim Schmidt.
We ready to roll over there? Okay, cool. All right, I'm Kim Schmidt. I am a resident of the city of Liberty Lake. And he's pulling up a PowerPoint for me real quick. A couple months back, I mentioned that I submitted a public records request for any public comment related to the library ordinance 119C or D. I did receive the final results from that record request, and I wanted to share it with the public. The last slide will actually contain a QR code that you can scan that'll give you a link to the Google Drive that has every comment I received in it. Just in the spirit of transparency. It looks like we're still trying to pull that up real quick. It's very short, don't worry. Okay, I can tell some jokes while we wait. What did the fish say when it swam into the wall?
Ouch.
Damn.
Oh,
And it's totally clean and everything.
it is.
Can we maybe reset the clock?
I've stopped it.
Thank you.
It's up on. It's up on
On the
Zoom.
computer?
It's just not up on the screen.
Okay, let me grab my phone. Can everybody watching online see?
Yeah, they can.
Okay, all right. So if you look at the first slide on your computer or on the Zoom screen, I have two graphs there. One is for those who are in support of 119C and or D. The other was for those who oppose. Now I've broken down each comment into whether or not the commenter is a Liberty Lake resident, a non-resident, or they did not state their residency. I have at the bottom, I have the total amount of emails for each of those categories, and I have the amount of unique emails because many people did email multiple times. So you'll notice in support, there was 11 residents of Liberty Lake, and opposed, there was 35 residents of Liberty Lake. Now, if we go on to the second slide, which breaks down Liberty Lake residents only. Trying to make sure he gets. Okay, so when you break it down into to the category of residents only, 11 were in support and 35 opposed. Total emails came in at 108 and unique email addresses were at 92. What this tells me is that the majority of the residents that live in this city actually opposed Ordinance 119, both C and D. That's a combination of those. Now, if you go on to the third slide there, not included in my data was 2 written comments. One was just asking general questions about the ordinance. That same person later actually, they didn't at first state their stance on the matter, but later they did oppose. The second comment was one that was in support of Councilmember Dunn's amendments, which were voted down. Also not included were emails from 17 East Valley High School students. 16 were in opposition to the ordinance. 1 was in support of the ordinance. There was also a message included from the teacher. I decided to not include those because they did not state their residency and the majority are not of voting age yet. They will be soon. And then if we go on to the fourth slide, you'll see the QR code. Now, what if you scan this with your phone, this will bring you to my Google Drive that includes every single comment that I received, categorized into whether they support or oppose, and then the others that I weeded out. So that's about it. Just wanted to share that with everybody in the spirit of transparency. That is the popular word right now. So I wanted to make sure everybody had that information. They can see it for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments here in chambers? Or anyone online who wishes to testify? Okay. All right, we'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting for those who would like to testify on any topic or anything we discuss at the meeting tonight as well. So thank you all very much. We will now move on to item number 8 in the agenda, reports and inquiries, and we'll start with, announcements. We don't have any announcements, do we, Kelsey? All right, we can move on to number 8 then. Reports and inquiries, we'll start with city council reports. Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah. So I wanted tonight to revisit or explain a little more about STA appointments and specifically the alternate selection in the event that the Liberty Lake representative is not in place. I'll describe that I had a phone conversation earlier today with Chris Cargill to describe these conditions, and I want to explain what I think I would like to suggest. The STA or Spokane Transit Authority Board is comprised of memberships from several jurisdictions, the greater county, the city of Spokane, the city of Spokane Valley, and then small cities representation. We're in there with the small cities. Within that specifically, City of Liberty Lake, City of Millwood, City of Cheney, City of Airway Heights, and the City of Medical Lake. There are one, appointee selected to participate. Amongst these 5 small city jurisdictions, one of those characters is appointed for a 2-year period to be a voting member within that board. So that voting membership then cycles in position to each one of those every successive 2 years. I need to recognize that right now, the City of Liberty Lake is in that voting appointed position and will be through the end of 2024. For the purpose of an alternate, if for any reason I'm not there, what I realize is that the other small city jurisdiction participants, Dan Sander, City Council, City of Millwood, Chris Grover, Mayor, City of Cheney, Dan Bittaker, Mayor, Airway Heights, and Lance Spearing, Councilmember, Medical Lake. These guys are, we call them ex officio. They sit and attend each meeting, and we look at each other and talk to each other about the actions at hand, representing what we think the small cities jurisdiction should consider for votes and activity. I believe that if in their event I'm not able to attend this meeting, I actually believe that the other small city jurisdiction participants, ex officio, are in a better position to vote representing small city jurisdictions than, for example, an appointee from our city's council in Liberty Lake. I wanted to introduce that for conversation and for consideration. And if this council would potentially consider reappointing then Cheney Mayor Chris Grover as the alternate for any event that I'm not able to attend a Spokane Transit Authority meeting. Discussion.
When did you say that term ended? 2024?
The end of 2024, correct. I have played that role then through the year 2023 on into 2024, and at the end of that period, I believe it rolls to Millwood.
Ah, okay.
Councilmember Van Orden?
Having been on the STA, know what an incredible book you get.
A lot of stuff.
For, yes. So it is important to have somebody up to speed. Who is our current alternate?
Councilmember Chris Cargill is our current appointed alternate.
Okay. So I know what an incredible amount of work that is to be there. I guess I'm going to refer back to our alternate, what your thought is.
Well, as Councilmember Dunn pointed out, we talked this afternoon about this, and I understand the need to make sure that we have someone voting that is up to date on what's happening at the STA meetings. My only concern, as I expressed to Councilmember Dunn, is that in the event that he cannot attend the meeting, we are essentially right now giving our vote as the city to, under this scenario, we'd be giving it to a different city. So that was my only hesitation about this, was whether the council wanted to be in the position where if Councilmember Dunn could not attend, we would be in the position of having that vote basically go to a different small city. In this case, I believe Councilmember Dunn said Cheney.
Yeah. If I could
Yeah.
reflect on that observation. This role in this STA board is a little novel because I vote, I suppose, not just for City of Liberty Lake. I vote representing these other small cities. I take it to heart and often speak with these guys, talking about the conditions which we were observing. And, to be direct, though I may conflict with what may be their apparent consensus, I will try to reflect that in the votes that go on. So, yeah, I do represent our city for sure, but I also represent, I think, the intentions and the wills of Millwood, Cheney, Airway Heights, and Medical Lake. So it's kind of a balance. Try to pull that off.
I think Councilmember Kurtz had a comment.
Yeah, I was wondering, based on what Mayor Pro Tem has just said about his hesitation to not essentially have, I think, a voice at the table as well, is wondering if Councilmember Dunn is not able to attend, if we could still have the alternate attend, but the voting piece is delegated to somebody else so that we're still at the table, but then the maybe person who has maybe all of the information and has been a part of the discussions is there to actually cast the vote, sort of as a compromise between the two. I see what both of you guys are saying, so just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, I'd agree. In fact, why don't you all come to these STA meetings? I love it. It's a lot of fun, really. No, that's a great
Councilmember
idea.
Spencer.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, so it's a couple thoughts on this. One, if we were to move to something, a situation like that, where we're delegating it to somebody else who's already serving on the board. Well, first of all, so City of Cheney is who you're proposing?
Yeah, Chris Grover. He's a former chair of this the Transit Authority Board, actually. He'd previously served in that capacity.
So was Chris the one previous to you
I'd have to look
taking
at
the vote?
I'd have to look back in the memory banks. Prior to 23, which was the voting? Oh, sorry, I can't answer that accurately off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm curious, one, if we did move to that scenario, is the proposal then that we don't have an alternate? Would there be any purpose for us sending an alternate if they're not going to be representing the city in that situation?
The board recognizes an appointed alternate by this jurisdiction. So, you know, I, Liberty Lake, City of Liberty Lake, and recognize the resolution which appoints our alternate. So it would be an action of the council to reappoint an alternate, should we choose to.
Mhm.
Would that mean that no one from the city attends that meeting? No, there's an open invitation.
Right.
For any purpose. If I'm unable to be there, it would be an open invitation and a recommendation that somebody from this council who has that time and energy wants to attend to observe, of course. I just want to defer the actual vote activity to a member of this small city's jurisdiction who has participated in discussion and is kind of activities at hand.
Are the other cities proposing to do the same? Are the other small cities proposing to defer in the case where one of their members is not gonna be there?
So these other cities right now, they're called ex officio, don't vote.
But when they are in a voting position, is it the desire of the representatives of the small city to defer to a specific member, or perhaps defer back to the previous voting member in a situation where the voting member is not available? I'm just trying to think for continuity's sake, rather
Yeah.
than the small cities getting, well, depending on who's on the board at the time, we'll decide on this individual. So.
You know, it's a reflection of those jurisdictions and their appointments. I believe confidently that prior efforts, prior voting members had selected, we'll say, other small city representatives for that alternate position. But again, I can't factually confirm that.
Okay.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, good discussion. I appreciate you bringing this up to us, or at least consideration. I would not be in favor of this. I feel that we do have the representation. I think Councilman Dunn has done an excellent job of doing that. I was there for 4, close to 5 years prior to that. And the situation had come up in the past where one of the cities could not have somebody attend on a regular basis. And I believe FCA had some sort of ruling. So I guess I would want us to check with FCA to see what is their position on something like this, because I do recall, I can't remember what city it was, they'd had a representative who was not showing up. So they did make arrangements for another city. And I think it was Chris of Cheney, I think that stepped into that. I think he was in that position on it. All of the cities are set up where in the small city, we have one vote. City of Spokane, I think, has 4. The Valley has, I think, 3 or something like that. So every vote is critical, but I think it's critical that we have the representation there. When we also have, if Councilman Dunn cannot be there, then we should have an alternate that's assigned to us. I think Councilman brought up a good point. Are the rest of the cities doing this? I think it would be a disadvantage to all the cities that suddenly we're doing something differently than the rest on it. So I'm very comfortable continuing the capacity that we are. By having an alternate, what it allows Councilman Dunn, and in this case, Mayor Pro Tem, who's the alternate, to visit, to keep up to date on what's going on. I'm very comfortable moving ahead the way we are. Thank you.
Mayor, did you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I first I was going to defer to Councilmember Kennedy since he had served before. I think, I guess my position on this, and Councilmember Dunn, I had a chance to talk, and I do understand, you know, obviously, you know, we're one of 4 or 5, you're representing those small cities. So it would make sense to me to have, for the voting piece of it, to be able to have one of those other small cities of our group, really, it's somebody from the group voting for small cities, while also having our alternate attend. So and you know, the other cities are you know, a little bit different in that they don't have, they're only representing their own city. In this case, we're representing all of the group of small cities. So you know, Councilmember Dunn, have you run this by STA to see what their rules might be or how they feel about it?
It's actually a recommended practice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So is this, I guess, the only other thing I had, is this something that we want to bring back? Because I think it has to be part of a resolution to do this. Am I correct?
Yeah, we took a motion and a vote to establish the appointed alternate. So it'd take a similar action to
Okay.
make a change.
Sean?
Dan, I want to say a few years ago, I can't remember now, didn't we have something in a resolution that addressed this previously with regard to absent attendees for whatever reason that one of the other small cities then could participate on behalf of the city?
Well, I'd love to find that, man. Sorry.
And I don't recall off the top of my head, but I was thinking it was the STA, but it may be in a prior resolution, but that was my thought. But
I will check it out.
my recollection was if the appointee or the alternate couldn't attend, then one of the other jurisdictions would be able to participate. That's my recollection, but I can't remember specifically. I mean, it's been a while since we did it, but maybe between Kelsey and I, we can find a resolution to see if there was something in there, but something striking me that we did something along those lines.
Councilmember Kennedy? Oh, you're on mute, Mike.
I really think it'd be anti-productive to still have an alternate and have that alternate show up in the event if our representative can't be there and yet have the vote given to somebody else. I mean, why have an alternate even go? So I think the logical thing would be if we're going to give up that vote, if our representative cannot be there, if we're going to give it to another city, I don't see why we even need an alternate. It becomes very anti-productive. I think it's very productive the way we have it now. The benefit of having an alternate to be involved to some degree in the event that we need somebody to fill that position. We have somebody who has at least some working knowledge of that. All the cities have done very well with that. And I think it's been very successful overall. So I would like to continue in that same direction. Thank you.
I'll just make one more comment as well. I'm wondering, Dan, if we could find out if there's an appetite from the other cities to do the same thing. What I mean by, I'm just thinking about this out loud here. What I mean is that in the future, when we are not the voting member, if they run into a situation where one of their people who hasn't been there and, you know, hasn't been paying attention, then the vote would go to us or whoever, you know, whoever would be on there.
Yeah, in fact, I'll commit to report back on what STA has recorded as the prior voted member and alternate for prior period. I think it'll reflect confidently that prior voting members were alternate, the other jurisdictions participant, but I'll report back to this group.
Okay. Do we want to add, I mean, we can discuss adding this as a workshop at the end of the meeting, but just keep that in mind, I guess, if we want to make a motion to do that. Okay, any other council reports? Okay, we will move on to the mayor's report. As we mentioned, the mayor's in Olympia, working hard. So Mayor, fire away.
Yeah, we've got a couple good days coming up. So welcome, everybody. Sorry I can't be there in person. Mark's in the room next to me over here. So we're ready to hit the AWC City Action Days, which starts tomorrow morning and goes through Thursday afternoon. There's multiple sessions throughout both days, including we have dinner set up with Representative Schmidt tomorrow night. We have some time scheduled with Senator Padden Thursday morning, and we're still waiting on some confirmation from Leonard Christian or other the 4th District representatives. So in addition to some of the other networking, fireside chat with the governor, discussions with the AWC lobbyists, we do have those discussions ahead of us. And as well, you'll see, I just found out today, so Representative Schmidt is going to be holding a town hall at the Trailhead Banquet Room on the 17th. We'll help spread the word so people can bring their topics to her. Leonard Christian is having one on the same day in the Valley a little bit later. So there are some additional times coming up to meet with our legislators personally, and if you want to spread the word. But you know, they always have their work cut out for them. You know, Eastern Washington doesn't get heard quite so much, as we all know. So it's great to know that they're here doing the work for us. And Mark and I were talking on the drive down from SeaTac is that we didn't see many people at all coming for City Action Days from the eastern side of the state. Ben Wick from the Valley is here because he's a board member for AWC. Betsy Wilkerson is as well. Then I think maybe there was somebody from Pullman. And other than that, I think the closest was maybe Moses Lake. So it's really important that we have the ability to come here and not only represent Liberty Lake and you know, kind of reinforce the legislative agenda that the council has put in place, but also be able to speak a bit for the other cities on the east side of the state. So we'll report back at the next meeting as to tell you how it went.
Any questions for the mayor?
Thanks for the service.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. City Administrator report. Mark in the room next door.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As you can see on my events and reminders, the mayor gave a thorough briefing on this, so I'm not going to retread on that. City Hall and the library are going to be closed on February 19th in observance of President's Day. And so we are going to face a situation on the 20th, like we have a couple of times earlier in the year, where we have a Monday holiday and then we're right back into a Tuesday council meeting. And so just keep that in mind as we prepare for that February 20th council meeting. And then this last item on here we talked about before, but I want to mention it specifically because we have community gardens in both the Arboretum and in Rocky Hill Park. And so if you have any interest at all in coming out to the library and learning about becoming a master gardener and then putting those skills into practice at one of the community gardens, there are 6 spots left. So, and then on the other side of that, if you've reserved one of those spots and thought, oh no, what am I going to do with this community garden? Well, we have a master gardening series that you may be interested in. So check both of those things out. Any questions on either of those before we move on to the other items? Okay, doesn't look like it. And so I'm going to move on and ask Jen to hop online and introduce our new park supervisor.
Thank you, Mark. So we had a brand new position open up and we had several candidates apply. It was a tough decision, but we have hired Derek Kosenki as our new park supervisor, who will work closely with me to help with the crew as we get larger. That has been something that we needed to fill a gap on. I think he's online if he wants to say anything to anyone, but he was our streets lead for the streets crew and now is the park supervisor. So I think this is day 4 for him. So welcome, Derek.
Thank you very much, Jen.
Man, a few words there. We're real excited to have Derek come on board. We had some great internal candidates and he's going to do a great job.
All right, thanks, Jen. So moving on here, as you heard in earlier in citizen comment, the importance of supporting police and having a robust and active police department focused on law enforcement in the community. I'm going to ask Chief Simmons to come up and deliver the police department's year-end report. Chief.
Thank you. I'd like to first start by introducing a couple of our new employees. On January the 2nd, we were fortunate enough to welcome Cherie Barth as our new evidence custodian, and also Officer Darren Powers as one of our new officers. Is Cherie online?
Yes.
I'm going to take. So Cherie, our new evidence custodian, comes to us from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, where she served as a technical assistant for over 7 years. Cherie brings a wealth of knowledge and experience related to daily police department operations that will advance our agency's vision and mission. Cherie holds an associate degree in administration of justice from Sacramento City College and a bachelorette of science degree in criminal justice from Park University. Welcome, Cherie. Cherie, you have a few words for us?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for everybody there for believing in me and taking this chance on me. And I look forward to learning everything I possibly can and how I can be the best asset for Liberty Lake.
It was awesome adding Cherie. She's a plug and play. It's great. There's not a lot of training, even though she thinks there is, but she's really a plug and play. She is awesome. Next, I'd like to introduce Officer Darren Powers. Officer Darren Powers comes to us from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, and he brings 26 years of law enforcement experience to our agency and our community. Officer Powers is a state and federal certified commercial vehicle inspector, state certified motor cycle officer, state certified field training officer. Okay, give me a second, because he has a lot of certifications. State certified master defensive tactics and ground fighting instructor, and a state certified technical collision investigator. Officer Powers is also an experienced grant writer. Officer Powers.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And thank you for everybody who had hopes for me. I didn't think I'd make it there for a minute, but obviously I got hired. Just had a few years of experience, but I do appreciate taking a chance on me. I love Liberty Lake. I've always been here, and it's just a great thing, and it's super, super nice. I love the family feel to it and how everybody is just, just very welcoming, and the citizens are great. I've been out there for a month now, and everybody waves at me with all 5 fingers. It's really nice, versus the other thing in the county. So anyways, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
And as a side note, 20, how many years, Darren, before you escaped, have we been working together?
Since 2000.
2000. This is our 3rd agency together. So that's a real steal, and you're going to see some great things coming up with his knowledge and ideas. I'm really excited for the city and our agency. On January the 8th, we hired Chris Huda. Is Chris online? Is he?
Yes, he is.
I am.
Hey, Chris. Officer Huda has 6 years of law enforcement experience, working briefly for the Cowlitz Tribal Department and 5 years with the Washington State Patrol. While attending the Washington State Patrol Academy, Officer Huda was elected as the duty cadet, which was the supervisor of 59 of his fellow cadets. Also, while attending the Washington State Patrol Academy, Officer Huda, which I found is extremely hard to say, was awarded the 2 highest awards of the Academy at graduation, the top overall award and the Core Values Award. Now, the Core Values Award at the Washington State Patrol includes strong leadership, effective partnerships, professional excellence, and acting with integrity and accountability, which are all values that we very much welcome here in our city and at our department. Chris, you have a few words?
Absolutely. I just would like to thank the city of Liberty Lake and the police department for giving me the opportunity to come out here and serve the community. My family and I are extremely excited to be here and to be a part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I'll have to say, the minute that I met Chris, that we shook hands, I immediately knew we have to have him here. He's such a great person and such a great officer, and we're extremely blessed to have him working in our city.
Thanks.
And now I'd like to present you with just a brief overview of our annual report. I provided you with a more detailed copy, hard copy, but I'll just talk briefly about some highlights, I believe. So next slide. So I'll cover kind of our department overview, where, what we look like as a department, our structure in 2023, the officers that we hired, how we kind of focused on increasing the amount of community-oriented policing that we were doing, our improvement in our technology as far as public safety, and a few statistics of our calls and et cetera for the year. Next slide. So we ended the year with 20 commissioned personnel, 2 civilian personnel, and 2 volunteers. Within the commissioned personnel, of course, myself and Deputy Chief Morgan, we had 4 sergeants and 2 patrol corporals as supervisors. We had a detective corporal who was running our investigative unit, a detective, and 10 patrol officers and 1 school resource officer, who's also technically a patrol officer. Our civilian personnel were a police records clerk and a police evidence and records clerk, which has since changed to 2 police evidence and records clerk as of this year, a chaplain, and our police ambassador. And I can tell you, our volunteers are so extremely important. They were, I can't even explain the service that they provided to the city, and not just our city, our community last year, because our chaplain also services outside of the city if needed, if there's not a chaplain at the Spokane County Sheriff's Office that's close, that when the deputy needs one. So extremely important. Next slide. We hired 3 officers in 2023. One of the questions that came up towards the end of the year, I believe by a citizen, was, were these 3 hires due to people leaving the department and replacing officers? And that's a no. We don't have turnover. People generally come and they stay, and that's a great thing. These 3 were hired to help boost our staffing so that we can eventually, hopefully, get to where we need to be. And we are getting there. It's tough, but we're getting there. Officer LaRocco came from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office by way of LA County Sheriff's Office. Officer Jordan Tootle came from Tuttle came from the Benton County Sheriff's Office, and Officer Kyle Fritz came to us from Post Falls PD by way of LA County. So a wealth of experience there. And I'm going to tell you right now, these are 3 high performers. The things that they did in this community the first year are just unbelievable. So we're extremely gracious to have those 3 working in our community. Next slide. Specialties in community-oriented policing. We still have Corporal Derek Arnold in the Spokane Regional Area Support Unit. They made some great rescues and did a lot of great things, not just in our state, our county, but regionally, and I believe over in Idaho as well, assisting. So it's great to have his expertise and that resource available for our community when we need it. Police Activities League, which is hosted by the Hub. We had several officers, including Sergeant Mark Holthouse, our school resource officer, Dave, and one of our officers, Logan, engage in this regularly. And it's where they go over and they just play games with the kids after school, and the kids love it, interacting with law enforcement. Our Liberty Lake Police Department Police Ambassador Program, which is headed by Police Ambassador John Bejosa, has exploded. And so he's getting more invites to regional events than I think he really wants to book right now, but it's a great program. And the big thing that we're looking forward to this year is the air show, which is back in town. And just to let you know, we had the #1 booth at the last air show. People loved it. So we kind of wanted to build on that, and we got some new toys and things like that to give to the kids. And so we're super excited about that this year. Our active shooter response education has been great. We've had great numbers attend that educational course at the police department. And that's a great resource for the department. And we also do department tours regularly when people call, like for the Boy Scouts, et cetera. A lot of community-oriented policing activities, as you can see, a lot of city events, the Hub events, the trunk or treat over at Legacy Church, et cetera. Next slide. One of my favorite events last year was the school safety roundtable discussion, and Chief Asmus was there. I still call him Chief. This was a great discussion, headed by Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers. A great discussion on school safety, employing technology and the like to ensure that our kids are able to attend school in a safe environment. So that was a great event. Next slide. Last year, we purchased a drone, and we're still building on this program. This has been a great tool for us. Unfortunately, we've had some events where, in the city, incidents where this resources has been used, particularly a couple of fatal accidents that we've had. So this has been a great resource for mapping crime scenes, but also officer safety. We've responded to, we've launched it in a couple of higher profile incidents, standoffs, et cetera. And it's just great having that aerial view and being able to, search for suspects, see if there are any threats in the area, et cetera. So it's a great tool. And again, we're still building on this. This year we are looking forward to fully equipping a police vehicle to house this. That's TV screen, electronics, so that all the batteries are always charged. That way the officer doesn't have to come back to the police station if he's called out to get everything, put it in, and everything's there for him. So that's the second stage of this program that we're going to hopefully employ this year. Next slide. Thanks to Chief Soto and his staff, we were able to outfit, I think 12 officers. Well, we have 12 devices. I think we have 10 on patrol or 11 on patrol. Officers with AEDs, great program. We're often the first on scene, where we can be the first on scene incidents of cardiac arrest or heart attacks. And we're able to start that process, those life-saving measures sooner, because the sooner that those measures can be employed, the better rate of the better rates of survival for the victims. Next slide. And I know I was gonna lose my voice by the end of this. Last year, we responded to 6,784 incidents. As you can see there, it's broken down in your pamphlet by the month. May was a busy month for us, and then it kind of dropped off through December. Next slide. Our officers wrote 1,118 case reports last year. Those are the reports. We don't write reports on every incident. So those that require written reports, or where the officers believe there should be a written report, this is what this documents. And again, we wrote 1,118. Next slide. We had 83 traffic collisions. October, for some reason, you'll see a trend here. October is a pretty busy time for us. I have no idea why. But we had 15 in October, 10 in May was second, but it was pretty consistent throughout the year, our traffic collisions. And so we've been discussing different methods and exploring different methods to help increase our traffic safety, including potential officers that are working strictly traffic, using technology. I have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks with a gentleman to talk about traffic cameras. And there's two types, ones that actually will send a ticket, and there's ones that send warnings. So that's an example of some of the things that we're looking at for like speed and those types. Next slide. Our officers wrote 341 traffic criminal or non-criminal citations. That's misdemeanor and civil infractions last year. Again, you can see September and October were busy months for us. Next slide. 32 DUIs last year. September was super busy for us. And I think Officer Tuttle, who was Officer of the Year this year, is probably responsible for a good portion of those. He's extremely good at finding DUIs and getting that danger off the streets. Next slide. Property crimes, we had 240 thefts, vehicle thefts and burglaries last year in the city. Again, another thing that we pay attention to, and we try to find proactive ways to address those. You can see it kind of started out high in January, February, and kind of tapered off. May was a little bit high and then tapered off towards the end of the year. Next slide. Vandalisms rose throughout the year. And again, trying to find different ways to handle those. Next slide. Arguments, assaults, and DVs, we had 120 throughout the year. Next slide. One of the ways that we combat property crimes and our burglaries, vandalism, those types of things, is we try to contact people who we think are out, those suspicious people. And officers contacted 420 suspicious vehicles last year. For some reason, I couldn't pull the stats on suspicious persons, meaning those people that are on foot, but I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be around the same or close to it, but 420 suspicious vehicles. When we contact suspicious vehicles, often that results in warrants and just telling people, hey, if you don't have a reason to be around, just don't be around, because I know you're up to no good. So that's why we contact this. Next slide. And lastly, we used approximately 96% of our budget last year. And you can see the dollar amount that we have remaining. Next slide.
Chief,
Any questions?
I think Councilmember Kennedy has a question.
Yes, sir.
One question on the accidents. I noticed that increase that you related to in October.
Hey, Councilmember Kennedy, can you pull your
Yes.
microphone down? So, there you go. Now try it.
Got it?
Perfect. Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Chief, yeah, excellent report. Question, the accidents increase in October. Is there any relationship to school being back in process and people, maybe more young people being in accidents, or any relation to that?
You know, I can answer that question. One of the things that I wanted to do is, and I'm gonna do that pretty soon, is I wanna, on all these stats is do a 5-year comparison. To see if
Okay.
there's a trend within the last 5 years. And so I can answer that, but I can do that 5-year comparison and see if there's a relationship, you know, not a relationship, but there's a trend, you know, every year that around that September, October timeframe, we start to see an increase and may be able to correlate that with school being back in session.
Great, thank you.
Mayor, did you want to jump in here as well? No, you're good. Okay. All right. Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, I just want to say, thanks. I think that, I speak for a great deal of the community in saying that the safety and I'd say the security we all feel is reflected in your work. And I really appreciate the communication objective of preparing this report. It gives us something in material hands to talk about and share with people in our community, talking about the work of our local police department. So
Thank you.
thank you, Chief.
And I'm gonna send an electronic copy over to Kelsey, and hopefully we can put that on our website, or David, pretty soon. The last thing that I have is, a question came up regarding the difference, or basically, how do we patrol our public streets versus private property, HOAs, et cetera? That's kind of a hard question to answer. There's no general one way that a patrol officer patrols. Deputy Powers patrols differently than I patrol, and Officer Tuttle, you know, et cetera. Everybody has their own focus, their own patterns. And one of the things that we're taught is you don't do things the same way over and over and over, so people know what your pattern is. You don't show up in one neighborhood at 12:20 every night to patrol the neighborhood, because believe me, the bad guys are watching. So there's really no particular method, so to speak, that we control, that we patrol our HOAs versus our public streets, neighborhoods on our public streets, or our private businesses. There is one distinct difference, and that is traffic enforcement. Criminal law, we're good. We can enforce that statewide, right? Traffic enforcement, there's only five traffic laws that we can basically enforce on private property. And a majority of those are criminal, except no insurance. So no insurance, DWLS, DUI, reckless driving, and neg driving. Those are the 5 that we can enforce on private property, with the exception of speeding. And that is, we can enforce speed per RCW if there is a contract, just like the one that we had with Legacy Ridge. And we enforce that because basically Legacy Ridge is open to the public pretty much at all times. They don't close their gates. And so if there is an issue with speeding in an HOA under a contract, we can enforce that. But if it's a private street, and unless it's one of those 5 that I mentioned, we can't enforce it. So I know there's been some issues in Legacy Ridge with stop sign violations. It's private property. It's kind of the same as the stop sign, excuse me, in the Albertsons parking lot. You know, it carries the same weight. So you kind of cross your fingers and pray that people obey it. But if they're driving recklessly or negligently, that's a different thing. So anything else there, Dan? And I can answer any questions if anyone has any questions about that. Yes, ma'am.
I see community-oriented policing activities. Kind of a big one for scope. Are we still having scope, and are we talking about, you know, block watches and?
So scope is a sheriff's office program.
It is.
It's controlled by the sheriff's office. They do what they want when they want. They come in, they talk to us. They don't really communicate a lot with us. We did just donate a vehicle to the sheriff's office for scope because they had some issues with the vehicle that they had. So we have seen them a little. Block watches, I've looked into. I had a phone conversation with, his name is escaping me. Spokane PD. He runs and it's not Neighborhood Watch. I can't, it's out of their cops office, the name is escaping me. But one of the things that I think, and I talked to the mayor about it, is starting our own community groups, because I think we would get buy-in and investment if people in our community are protecting their own community. And so that's something that we've looked at. I've looked into, started to look into, and was gonna get Sean some of the legal part of that if we had our own volunteers. Within the agency, we've talked about not only citizen volunteers, but an Explorer program. I know Stephanie Olivas was interested in an Explorer program, so we were kind of talking about the potential legal issues and that may have to go with that and what the city would be liable for, and maybe try to get some examples of some waivers and legal documents that maybe the county uses for scope, and the former scope director, Rick, I spoke with him, but he was gone before I could really get in depth with it. So it's something that we have explored, but scope, I've seen more of the scope office and the volunteers in Otis Orchards coming through town than I have the ones that drive the vehicle, the Liberty Lake vehicle. So go ahead.
The biggest thing with scope with the regional or our local scope guys that were here.
Aaron, can you come up to the mic?
I apologize, but the biggest reason we had the scope volunteers not coming into Liberty Lake for the last little bit is it didn't have a vehicle. That vehicle that they had, had over 165,000 miles on it during the summertime. It didn't have AC and it hardly ran at all. So that's why they weren't coming out and doing a whole lot of active patrolling during the time frame. Now that we've got him, that donated vehicle, it is being used for our Liberty Lake scope volunteers here. And Joe is the head of that volunteer group and he was out in it today. So I can tell you, yeah.
Perfect.
And there were a couple of medical issues too with them. So they got those all kind of under wraps now, and hopefully you'll be seeing them out there a little bit more. The only difference being now is the scope car that you will see out in Liberty Lake now does have a Spokane Valley Police markings on it. But when we donated it to the county, that was how they marked it up, but it's still sitting in Liberty Lake. As a matter of fact, it's still sitting behind our office there. So it's kind of poor use for the Liberty Lake area. It's just marked with the Spokane Valley scope. So you'll see it a little bit more often.
Okay, thank you.
But I would love to explore in the future having our own volunteers from our city, because like I said, I think the buy-in when it's your city and you're representing your
We
city.
had 65 to 80 volunteers. I just kind of wondered what happened.
Yeah. Something we can definitely look at in the future.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Spencer.
How's the flock system? You still getting a lot of hits off of that? Still utilizing it quite a bit?
Yeah, we still utilize it quite a bit. One of the things that I've seen throughout the county is a decline in hits over the last probably month and a half. And I think the criminals have figured it out. Not just in our city, we've seen just a little bit of a decline, but throughout the county, there's been a huge decline in the number of hits. There for a while, especially when the Spokane County Sheriff's Office got them, it was continuous on the radio, flock hit here, flock hit here, flock hit here, and that's declined quite a bit. We are exploring getting, is it three more right now, moving one. And so to kind of fill in a void, we call it the black hole, where there's some voids there, and we're like, well, if somebody slips out through there, or something entered the city from there, we wouldn't know. And so Flock's been really great working with, great company to work with. And hopefully when the Valley, or if the Valley gets them, the entire county will be blanketed. So super excited about that.
It's great.
But it's a tremendous tool. It's a great tool. I can't even explain it.
Chief, are we the only ones with the block system? then?
No, so we have Spokane County Sheriff's Office, so the unincorporated Spokane County. So pretty much everywhere surrounding the valley, the valley is kind of a black hole right now. They don't have any. Airway Heights, Kalispell Tribe. Hold on, listen. Airway Heights, Kalispell Tribe, EWU, I think has one. There's Cheney, they're all over. And like I said, if and when the valley, which I think they are, I think it's an approval issue right now. And so when they get those, it'll be great to track vehicles and know where our bad guys are moving and those things. So,
Chief, when you say you think criminals may have figured it out, do you mean the locations or do you mean like they're taking steps to make sure that we can't read their plates and
Both.
identification?
both, we're seeing a lot of switch plates. And so I think we're getting more stolen plate hits now. Because they're switching plates and then people are figuring out that their plates are stolen, but by then they've probably been driving around for 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
With the switch plates. One of the things I heard from one of the analysts, or excuse me, what I heard from Post Falls, who has a different system, it's a LPR, it's a different system, is they're seeing vehicles without plates, so they're taking the plates off. As a matter of fact, when I talked to Captain Mueller over there, I actually called in a suspicious vehicle, and Officer Fritz, before he came over, responded to it in my neighborhood where somebody dumped a car, but they bent the license plate up, so on both sides, so it was like in thirds. So the plate readers wouldn't read it. And so I was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. So they're figuring it out. But again, we still have those hits, the stolen plates and the stolen vehicles. And
any other questions? Yes.
Along the same line, does the flock camera recognize when there's a license plate missing or when it's been deformed in some way?
no,
And
so
that becomes a hit?
no, it
No?
it has to it has to be something that's entered in NCIC, Wausau NCIC.
Okay.
And so if it's a stolen plate, yes. It does record. I can go in and I can tell you how many vehicles are coming through with no plates and kind of look at those images to see if they have temp stickers or they just don't have plates. And so we can get an idea of, hey, we have a lot of cars coming through with the plates removed. And so just one.
Okay. Interesting.
Mayor, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, since Councilmember Van Orman was talking about scope, I want to shout out to Craig Howard, who I don't know if he's there in chambers or if he's online. But he did note that, and Wendy, I don't know if you knew this, that Harry Hansen, who was one of the founders of Liberty Lake Scope, passed away, I guess last month. He was 94, and his celebration of life was on the 23rd. So kind of shout out to him and his efforts. Wendy, I don't know if you want to say anything in addition to that.
Harry was a monumental force for Scope. I remember taking Chief Asmus and introducing him to him when we first started going. Yeah. He will be well missed. Harry Hansen Award. I also got a Harry Hansen Award as well. He made a significant difference. If anybody had anything wrong with having things stolen out of their garage, he was right there to make sure that people were protected. But it takes a community to know what's out of place. And I think Scope is a huge part of that. And I'd like to see, the community coming together again to make sure that they're looking out for their neighbors. So thank you. I did not know about Harry, and I will definitely put that on my calendar.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, sir.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Mark, back to you.
Right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So looking at the legislative update, I'm going to keep this at a very high level. We're on a 60-day session. We're at exactly the halfway mark. Today's the 30th day. There's really not a lot of individual bill information to report. We're still in the phase where those are in their house of origin. And so next week, a week from today, is when that cutoff for going into the opposite house is. And so that's when we're going to start seeing, some survivability with these pieces of legislation. We'll have a more, I think, thorough report on the 20th. I can say there's a lot of activity surrounding property tax, a lot of activity surrounding both sales and use and REIT taxes. And then obviously a lot of discussion surrounding the 6 potential voter initiatives that have been certified. And so as the mayor said before, we're going to be meeting with not only our lobbyists over the course of the next couple of days, but having a chance to sit down with our delegation. And so, again, on the 20th, we should have a much more thorough report with some actual forecasts of things that may be coming for the governor to sign or consider. And so if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but we're really in that initial consideration and committee period. And so there's just not much individual activity to report at this time.
Looks like we're good.
All right. And so with that, I'm going to pivot and ask Lisa to come on, and we've got an update on the driving range project. Just to remind everyone, this is a $1 million project, and so we wanted to keep you up to speed on what's happening and what will happen over the next, say, 30 days. So Lisa, take it away.
Michael, can I share my screen, please? There we go. Are you seeing it? Oh, good. Okay. Awesome. So just wanted to give you a little update on Trailhead Driving Range pool and netting replacement. We started out in December. The first task was really to do some soil testing and get some geotech reports. Following that, third week in January, they began removing the poles and netting, and quite the operation. One of the things that I wanted to share with you, one would think that it was actually a benefit to have such warm weather going on right now. Actually, it created quite a challenge. And so we had to, it's not moving forward. Okay. There we go. So we actually had to invest in some turf protection because we and the contractor had anticipated frozen ground. Not so right now. So we wanted to protect our investment, and you can see we have some plywood pads down that basically that they're driving over to not rut the turf, etc. We I'm moving a little there. We did get we did get the poles delivered third week in January, and we started the process of drilling. You can see here the auger, and we have now begun to install the poles. It's an interesting process. Once they get once they get the hole drilled, they have a sleeve. They put the holes into the sleeve for the concrete. And when the concrete is all set and tested and passes the certification report, they then go back in and remove the sleeve. And we are right now installing these poles on the Gulf side of the driving range, and we will be working our way down towards the Arboretum and then back around to City Hall. The schedule, these guys have until March 15th to get it done, but they're shooting to have it done by March 1st, and things have been going pretty smoothly thus far. We have a total of 33 poles that need to be installed. And so it is a process. And as you know, we had to fence off the sledding hill, which apparently hasn't been a problem this year because it's a construction zone. And we do have the staging going on. I'm sorry? Is somebody asking a question?
No.
Anyhow, so that's so that is the update on poles and netting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Any questions? Councilmember Spencer?
Yeah, Lisa, how many polls did you say are up now?
There's, I can't say exactly, but there's at least half a dozen up.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Lisa.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Last item on my report is the quick update on the 2024 Community Satisfaction Survey. So as promised, I'm going to keep this in front of you just to report as this unfolds till we get results. And so as you remember, we talked about this the last couple of meetings. As of a week ago, Monday, our 660 or so survey invitations went out. And so we've started receiving survey responses, and we are going to keep that period or that window open for at least a 4-week period. And then we are in the middle of that or so going to remind folks who haven't responded. And really the objective with all of this is to prove the return on investment that we're making by way of our strategic plan. We're going to hear a little bit more about that when we get to the discussion on the PBB contract later this evening. But we've got those key results that we've identified in our strategic plan, and half or so of them are surveyable measures. And so that's what this community satisfaction survey is designed to give us information on over the course of the 5-year period of the plan. This is our first year, and so this will act as our baseline year. And so if anyone is listening that has received a survey invitation, we encourage you to complete it, get it back to us. If anyone comes to a council member or a board and commission member with questions about the survey, you can absolutely send them my way. I will be happy to answer any questions that anyone has who has been invited to take it. And if anyone tonight on the dais has any questions about the update or the process going forward, I'll be happy to answer those as well.
Any questions? Doesn't look
All
like.
right, so if there are none, that concludes my report, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, Mark, thanks very much. Appreciate it. We'll move on to Civil Service Commission, and I believe Mr. Mann is here.
Thank you. This will be pretty quick. Civil Service Commission, you know, it was newly reformed late last year, and we spent a lot of time getting organized. Just as a reminder, the purpose of the Civil Service Commission is really to make sure that all hirings, promotions, discipline, and firings at the police department are done fairly and under civil service rules and are transparent. The process is transparent to the public. So that's what we've been doing. We spend a lot of time, frankly, spinning our wheels, trying to get ourselves organized. I won't admit that we might have violated open meetings law, but I won't. Just understand that we had a lot of conversations that really weren't about what the commission does, but how do we go about doing things. I met with the city attorney as well to get some direction on what we need to be doing. We're in the process of revising. There are civil service rules that were written in 2005 or 2002 and approved. We have since found a new version that was written and approved in 2017. They still are going to need some revision, and we're in the process of doing that. Before I get into all of the detail, we spent a fair amount of time just gathering information. I participated in a 3-day online seminar that was put on by a law firm on the west side, Foster Garvey. They've been doing this same seminar for 42 years about civil service, and it was extremely informative. And I spent a lot of time and made a lot of notes, and it was very much an eye-opener as to what civil service is supposed to be all about. The police department has signed Mike Bogenreef, Sergeant Bogenreef, as our liaison, and he has been at almost every meeting that we've had, every discussion, giving us guidance. He shared files with us from previous Civil Service Commission that existed so that we could kind of get our head around what we're supposed to be doing. We actually had our first official meeting in December. And during that meeting, we elected a chair. which is yours truly. And then we also set the time and place and for our meetings, which we will meet on the second Thursday of every month here in this facility and at 4 p.m. So that works out well for all 3 of the commissioners. We also accepted Heidi Workman is going to be our chief examiner and our secretary. That turned out to be a real positive for us because we didn't have to go out and advertise for it and try to find somebody from the community. And because she has a HR background, it worked out really well. So she has been attending meetings starting in January and will continue on with us. We also began a search for an attorney. We had a budget of $10,000 a year for an attorney. I just talked to an attorney on Friday finally that has said she would be willing to work with us. Her name is Michelle Fossum. I don't know if you may know her. She has a lot of background in employment law. She was passed the bar in 1990, so she's been around a while. She sent us her resume. We will be reviewing that at our meeting this week with the commissioners, and then we'll bring her in next month in order to interview her and perhaps hire her on an hourly basis. We also, the 2 officers that were hired this year went through the formal process. We approved the list. The chief submits a list to the Civil Service Commission that we review and approve. There were 6 people on the list. I think they interviewed 3 and hired 2. So we make sure that those people are all treated fairly and get a good hearing before they're hired. Currently, as I mentioned, we are in the midst of revising these rules and the regulations. And we are moving on to we have laptops that are on order because we have to handle a lot of confidential information, particularly about disciplining and promotions and those kind of things. So we have to have our own ability to work through the city system and that type of thing. All of us have scheduled ride-alongs. I've already done one. I mentioned it to you once before, and it was quite an eye-opener. I urge anybody to go on a ride along. Those are really well worth it. We have a great relationship with this police department. It is very much like a family. It is, everybody's pulling in the same direction. I'm most impressed with every officer I've met, with the chief, the leadership, and it's excellent. So I'll open that. Any questions?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for your service.
All right, Spokane Valley Fire Department, Chief.
Good evening, everyone. I will be bringing you the January 2024 run numbers, both for our entire response area and for Liberty Lake. Next slide. There you go. Good. I'm glad it fit. So right now, these numbers right here are for the entire response area. We had just under 2,200 calls. And the key thing here is, I mean, I kind of get tired of saying, hey, this is our newest highest call volume. This is our newest highest call volume for any 1 month ever. So in comparison to the last 5 Januaries even, I just wanted to kind of see if there was anything out there as to why it would be busier. The big thing here is this cold spell that we had with the weather. It was a huge impact. So water alarms, building alarms were burst pipes and things of that nature. And you'll see when we get to our city's numbers at the very end, you'll see that it's also there. If you look at building alarms on that list, it says 179. That's 132% increase from the previous January. So it was very impactful, the weather. We had an increase of motor vehicle crashes by 27% for the month, and EMS calls by 16%. So I know that it's not a surprise that it snows here, and I hope that everybody else is not surprised by that. But what does kind of surprise me is that we still keep making the same mistakes. We don't pay attention when we're driving too close. We're driving, period, when we should just be at home. And I'm never going to say don't go anywhere, but use better judgment and always pay attention. My goodness, always pay attention. I mean, clearly we're one of those motor vehicle crashes where a person lost control of their vehicle and drove right into the back of our $1 million ladder that's now going to be out of place for at least 6 months. So the frame is completely bent. And so I'm just happy that nobody was in our truck when it happened and that person was not more seriously injured. So moving along, the next slide, sir. So on this slide is kind of a picture just of the month of where the calls were, the bulk of the calls. And the bigger the blue circles are, the more calls that were in that area. So if you kind of look at it and kind of, I know it looks like a Van Gogh painting, but if you look at that opportunity neighborhood in Spokane Valley, that's 46% of our calls is right in that area. So it's just super busy. And so just wanted you to take a look at that. Next slide, please. So again, just showing you the roughly 2,200 calls, 80% for EMS, 11% for fire, and the rest are kind of split evenly between hazmat, technical rescue, which also includes our motor vehicle crashes, and then just other items. Next slide, please. So those calls created roughly 2,700 responses. The busiest unit was engine 1 at 310 calls. But again, those top 3 units right there made up 46% of our calls. Next slide, please. This is just calls per area. And again, the top number and the bottom numbers on these graphs right now are exactly the same because it's the first of the month and it's year to date. So nothing surprising there. Again, just showing where the bulk of the calls are in District 8's area. Next slide, please. So this is the comparison year over year for January on the top. So, I mean, clearly we've had a 26% increase from last January. And then if you go to the bottom, we were just a hair under last year's numbers, total call volume. Next slide, please. Man, I wish I had made this bigger. I for whatever reason, I thought they were all big on our screens here, but maybe not so much. So again, where I was talking about the number 2 call here, which is generally not building alarms, is building alarms. So we had 25 alarms that went off, and most of those, if not all of them, were for burst pipes. So again, it was really impactful. Total call volume for the month was 107, and the map shows you exactly where they were at. The 11, if you see that picture 11 up there, or number 11 up there, that's the bulk of the fire alarms that were going off, building alarms that were going off. So that is it for my report. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. I'm curious about the accident with the ladder truck. Who was at fault in that situation?
The driver was the driver of the other vehicle.
The other vehicle.
So what actually occurred is there was an accident, and it happened in front of our guys, so that they were able to pull over and block traffic to make sure that nobody else drove into those vehicles. Meanwhile, they got out and were taking care of the people there. And then the other vehicle, just as they were finishing, they were heading back to the truck. The other car drove into the back of our truck, twisted the frame, but they were able to just transition right into that person and extricate them out of that vehicle. So again, thank goodness nobody lost their lives, but that has put a huge specialty unit. A ladder unit is a specialty unit, and it's taking it that chess piece off. So that's impactful.
Does, how does insurance work in that case? Is the individuals going to pay for that?
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's amazing.
Councilmember Kennedy.
That was my second question. So yes, I made sure that right away.
Chief, thanks for your report. I must admit, I look forward to your report because you're able to bring humor to something that a lot of people look as probably depressing. And I think you do a very good job of that. It's amazing to me that a big red vehicle with flashing lights would get run into, but I guess it does happen. The question I have is, what is a technical rescue?
Well, first of all, it's like, think of it as, you know, that candle moth syndrome. You know, you see the candle, and like a moth to the candle, they just kind of gravitate towards it, and they just forget everything else. So again, we're all human. So, you know, my big thing is that
I will not forget that analogy.
So for tactical TR, is that what you're referencing? What's on the report?
Oh, I thought it said technical rescue. Is it tactical rescue?
Technical rescue. Technical rescue.
Technical rescue. What is that?
So that is, and for right now in this rendition of what we're putting out, our motor vehicle crashes are included with our technical rescue calls, but that is being split out as of right now because I don't necessarily like that in the same grouping. So tactical rescue, or I'm sorry, now you got me on it. Technical rescue involves a confined space, trench rescue, when a trench collapses and we got to go in there.
Oh, okay.
Rescue them. Confined space, it's a small area, we got to crawl in there to get them out. Ropes, high angle, low angle rope rescue. So these are individuals that are trained to a much higher level than your normal firefighter. And so it's a specialty. And so when they are needed for those certain calls, that's what those calls are for. There's also swift water rescue is another one of those that belongs in that group each, because those are guys that are specifically trained for the ice rescues and getting in the river for that fast water, slow water rescues.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Chief.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
And last but not least, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Do we have somebody here in chambers? Do we have anyone online? Oh, Bill is there. Go
I'm
ahead.
here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Welcome, Mayor and council members. I'm Bill Genoway, Commissioner of Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. So we're finishing up the punch list for our admin office renovation. In fact, it's done. So the building is completely ready to be visited and people can come there and pay their bills or just come and look around. We got some landscaping stuff we have to do this spring. Other than that, the thing is done. We're planning an open house at our 50-year celebration in probably the later February or early March. Kind of looking forward to that. So we're conducting update on our Liberty Lake Sewer and Water construction specs. That's kind of an ongoing project. And just a little bit of a note of interest. We too have interest in what's going on at the legislature. So we're a member of the Washington State Association of Sewer and Water District. And so we're following some things pretty closely in the legislative process right now, particularly Public Works Trust Fund, because we have a pretty good allocation of money for Public Works Trust Fund. And it seems to be every year it gets rated a little bit. And this year, particularly, they're starting to rate it a little bit more. So we're keeping an eye on that, talking to our legislatures, and you all should be concerned about that too, because it's money available for infrastructure, roads, things that you would be interested in doing. We're very interested because we can get money for sewer and water lines. So that's about all I got. Any questions?
Any questions for Bill? No. Okay, thank you, Bill.
Sure.
All right, that concludes reports and inquiries. We do not have any workshop discussions tonight, so we will move on to general business items, and we have a lot of them. And I know that there are some folks who want to talk about specific items here, so let's just go through these one by one here. And just as a reminder, we moved A, C, D, N, and P to general business items under 11, so we'll skip those. So we'll move to 10B, approve the December 29th, 2023, December 31st, 2023, February 6th, 2024 vouchers, and the December 16th through 31st, 2023 payroll benefits and quarterlies, and January 1st, 15th, 2024 payroll and benefits in the total amount of $1,262,705.89.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Second.
Mayor, did you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, real quick, since it's on the consent agenda, you can move the entire consent agenda, what's left on it, under one motion and one vote. That's,
Since you've done this one, do this one, then you can do the rest.
Okay. And then I think there were a few other items that folks wanted to go through individually. Is that accurate?
well, it sounded like the 5
Right.
that were motioned to be
5.
moved. So just,
Right.
yeah, so move the consent agenda for B, C, B, E, F, G, A, whatever's left.
All right. So we've already had a motion and a second on 10B. Any questions, thoughts, comments on 10B? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. All right, so then we will,
It's, Chris, if I may, it's
Yes.
E through M as in Mary
yes,
and O as in Oscar. Those are the ones that are remaining under the consent agenda.
yes, and that's my mistake. I should have asked to move M to general business as well, because I had a couple of questions on that. So if everyone will bear with me here, let's do, I'll make a motion to approve general business items 10E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. And then,
And O.
and O, thank you, and O.
Second for anybody?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Spencer seconded. Any thoughts about those before we take a vote? Comments?
Can you repeat?
Yes, I will repeat it again. 10E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and O. And then we will come back to M. Council members, Kurtz, Kennedy, you're good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those all pass unanimously. So then we'll take M, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the climate planning grant contract in the amount of $255,000 for work completed by June 30th, 2025. I'm not sure who can speak to this, but I had a couple of questions about that. Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I think Mark had asked that N be reviewed first, since we have somebody online from the East Coast to speak to N.
Yes, we haven't moved M to general business.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we're just finishing M under 10.
So Mayor Pro Tem Cargill, I can respond to any questions you have on the climate resiliency grant.
Okay, so Lisa, I guess
Do we need a second?
Right.
If so, I second.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I don't think it's.
Sorry, you can ask a question. We can second after your
Yeah,
questions are
okay.
done.
So my questions on this, Lisa, are there contingencies in here in the event the initiative is approved and basically this goes away?
So the Growth Management Act has been amended. This is a requirement of our comprehensive plan update. We're going to have to do it whether or not we accept the grant. The question is that we are contracting for the 255,000 in this biennium. The balance of it will be contracted in the next biennium if the money is available. And if the money is not available, then we won't be held to that requirement. I'm just not, I'm not sure what initiative you're speaking to related to this.
So, well, there's an initiative that's gonna be on the ballot this fall, 2117, that basically does away with the Climate Commitment Act. So I was trying to figure out if that's approved, are we no longer subject to this particular parts of this contract that we're agreeing?
No, because this is not a part of the Climate Commitment Act provided funding for this because the state can't create an unfunded mandate. I guess if the initiative goes away, then the funding goes, or if the initiative is approved and the funding goes away, then I guess we don't have to do climate planning. Is I guess my best answer to that question.
Okay.
I think, Chris, probably the short version would be is generally the agreements are in place, if there's legislation already in place, you would enter in agreements based upon what the current law states. To the extent that there are revisions subsequently, because you don't know if they will pass or not, you don't assume one way or the other.
Right.
So to the extent there isn't funding, the grant wouldn't come, and the obligations may be changed subsequently after passage, for example. That may happen, but from the standpoint of contracting on an assumption that you don't know may happen one way or the other, you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, okay. So that was my question on this one. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, we'll take a motion then on this one.
Need just a second, because you made a motion, the first motion, right?
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah, so just need a
Okay,
second.
So, and Annie, I think was second.
Yeah, I seconded.
Okay, all right.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to approve?
Can you repeat the motion?
Yes, the motion was to approve item number 10, M as in Mary. Approve and authorize the mayor to sign the climate planning grant contract in the amount of $255,000 for work to be completed by June 30th, 2025. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, so now we get to general business item 11A, which is previously general business item 10N. Mark.
Yeah, if there are specific questions related to the agreement, I'll be happy to answer them. This is essentially a request for approval for an item that we've talked about for quite a while. We delivered a preview to council, if you remember, back on November the 8th. And then this was part of the budget discussion leading up to the adoption in December. And so if there are any follow-up questions related to terms of the agreement or any subsequent contract item, we'll be happy to answer them. And I'll introduce Eric Fabian and Jesse Muniz from Tyler Technologies. They're on the line to help answer any questions you may have as well. So we're all here to kind of answer questions and have a discussion about the proposal.
Councilmember Van Orman.
Since I'm the one who pulled it out, I guess it's a real quick question of, is this something that we can do on our own? Or Mark, is this something that you feel that you need to have extra on there to pull this through?
So as we've kind of discussed for several months, this would be not in particulars of brand or particular solution, but something like the solution that we are proposing through the contract tonight is essential for us to implement the strategic plan and put this methodology in place. Trying to put the pieces together without having kind of the industry leading, in this case, the industry leading backing of a tried and true system would be very difficult. And I don't know that staff would be able to carry that lift. We would need to probably go out and hire a specialist to be tasked specifically with this particular work, and then you start talking about costs that exceed that which we're proposing in the contract. And so this by far is the best method and will get us the results that we're looking for from an implementation standpoint and from a return on investment standpoint.
So with the strategic plan, doesn't that technically change every year? Even though we've got a 5-year, every year we're making the determination of what the community wants? Or is it?
Well, so yeah, so every year, council is adopting a budget, and through that budget, we are linking our investments to the priorities and the key results that we've stated in the strategic plan, and then we're reporting on the results of those so that council, staff, public can see what they're investing in and what the return on that investment yields as it is communicated through the strategic plan. Yes.
Okay, so this is a reporting portion. Okay.
Well, this is a planning and execution and reporting portion that is directly related to the budgeting piece of the strategic plan implementation. It allows us to tie our budgeting directly to our strategic plan and monitor the outcomes in the context of priorities. And so that's really where the value is going to come on an annual basis as we do a budgeting exercise for the coming year and a look back on the previous year to see what results we produced and what value those results give to the community.
Nobody else had a question on this than me. So that's.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you. So my question, Mark, I've mentioned before that I'm excited about the idea for the priority-based budgeting. I'm wondering how this software may or may not intersect with some of the other software that you guys use, such as the asset management system that you guys are using, some of the other data software that you guys are using. Do those things all kind of pull in together? And is this sort of the thing that does pull it all in together for the strategic plan, or how does that work?
So I'm gonna, Eric, if you don't mind, would you want to touch on that a bit?
Yeah, thank you, Mark, and thank you, council, for your interest in the priority-based budgeting initiative. And so I can't go as far as to say that our software solution will be, a repository that connects the other solutions that the city may be using. But they will be complementary, if you will, at this stage, with an eye towards a more strategic direct API or plugin that we're actively working on in the near future. And so we're incrementally getting to a more direct plugin. And so right now, the best I can say is they're complementary, working towards a more universal solution.
But Councilmember Kurtz, if I can follow that up, where you will see, so for example, what you will see in the budget development will be proposed investments that are directly out of our asset management system that are plugged into different programs that are organized and will be managed through the priority-based budgeting system. And so what you'll see ultimately is investments that are grouped by prioritized programs. And those things then will become ultra transparent because you'll see the investment, you'll see the return, and we'll be able to manage and make changes to that as our priorities change over time. And so that's really where the benefit will come. There won't necessarily be a hard interface between those systems, but you'll see the asset management appear as we prioritize those investments.
Thank you. The API piece makes some sense that you guys might be working towards that, but I think I was curious if there were, like you're saying, there's complementary pieces to this versus maybe some overlap, I guess, with the different software. So thank you for the answer to the question. And thank you guys for staying up super late to be here with us tonight.
Thank you again for having us.
Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, we will.
Do we get motions?
I don't think we've taken a motion yet on this, so I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the service and use agreement with ResourceX for the purchase, implementation, and use of priority-based budgeting software in an amount not to exceed $54,450, including sales tax.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Kennedy. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. All right, we will move on to general business item B, which was previously general business item 10A, approve the January 16th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Just one little area of the meeting minutes. I didn't move. I didn't go ahead and second. It was actually Councilman Cargill. So
What part are we talking about?
when we look at agenda approval, just wanted to be clear that
Oh.
I really didn't care about seating arrangements. I was happy to oblige.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion to adjust that in the minutes, Wendy, or do you want to just?
Motion to correct. So it would have been, let me see in here.
Oh,
I know that sounds really dumb.
I got it.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Kennedy moved to add a workshop discussion on the seating arrangements of council members. Mayor Pro Tem Cargill seconded. Councilmembers Kennedy and Cargill voted in favor.
And then Councilmember Van Orman, Dunn, Kurtz, and Ball opposed.
Yeah,
You,
so just switch.
you got that,
Switch
Kelsey?
the two.
Okay, so I'll second that. So we have a motion to amend the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. Now we need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Great. Second. Councilmember Spencer and Councilmember Dunn with the second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. All right. Item 11C, which is previously item 10C, approve the proposal for services and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Prothman for the Public Works Director recruitment not to exceed $10,200.
Okay, yeah, I brought this one
Okay.
forward. So question is,
Linda, can you get closer to your mic?
oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, my question about Rothman. Why are we paying almost with both positions, we're paying almost $20,000 to hire a headhunter to fill these positions? I know they're important positions and it takes very skilled people to fill these positions, but if we could save $20,000, if we could just first try it on our own, perhaps put it on Indeed.com. They've had results. I know a lot of people have gotten jobs through Indeed.com, or we could, put out advertisements locally. So I'm just questioning the need. It's not in the budget. Why are we spending that money on a headhunter? That's what I wanted to know.
Mark, do you
Thank you.
wanna, or Mayor, do you wanna take that one?
I'll let Mark, he's got the numbers.
Sure. So while Councilmember Ball is correct, there's no direct budget for these two expenditures. However, the salaries for both of these positions are budgeted at 12 months each. And so there's a little bit different situation for each one. For the city engineer, this position has been vacant since last July, and we have gone through multiple rounds of recruitment and really yielded no viable candidates, save one at the very beginning. And so after multiple months of going through different recruiting channels, it's time to hire a professional recruiter to try to widen the net on this particular position. Engineers are very difficult to find. They're in high demand, they're in low supply. And so at this point, we need to bring in a professional to go out and do a nationwide recruitment for that position. For the Public Works Director, same principle with respect to the fee being covered by the salary that we're not paying the person who isn't in the job. But this is a new department. This is a new position. And so we want to start out the Public Works Department's tenure in the city of Liberty Lake on the right foot. And so we believe that going out and doing at least a regional, probably a nationwide recruitment for this position is warranted. And so that's the justification behind the proposals for both Public Works Director and City Engineer at this point.
So Mark, if you're casting the net nationwide, for example, if you get a decent recruit that's on the East Coast, for example, then do we have to pay to fly him out here to interview?
If they were making, I mean, there are all kinds of options that are available, but if we were inviting someone to come interview, typically we pay for their travel, yes.
Anything else you wanna ask?
It's hard to know a specific answer until that situation arises and the conditions are known, but we would typically pay for someone to come and interview with us in person.
And typically, Linda, that wouldn't be until later in the process. It's not like we would fly somebody here for the first round of 6 people. That we can do a lot with Zoom these days.
Yeah, true that.
Councilmember,
Thank you.
you're good.
Oh, I'm just saying thank you. For
Yeah,
that.
okay. Councilmember Kurtz?
I think Councilmember Kennedy was first. Go ahead.
I beg your pardon, Councilmember Kennedy.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Councilman Kurtz was. I believe we have a history with Frothman in the past. I've used companies such as this with great success. It's something I'm very comfortable moving forward with. I think the money that we spend, although we can look at that and say maybe we could spend that better somewhere else, I think will give us good results moving forward. So thank you.
And Councilmember Kurtz?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So it looked like from this, the biggest lift that Frothman will be doing, similar to when we've used them before, would be through the marketing piece and the application process. And I can't remember if that included them doing the background check piece and then sort of the handoff to the city. Is that where that kind of ends as far as their responsibility?
So in the package that we've selected, they are doing everything up to the point of the selection process, right? So they're going to do the recruiting, the advertising, and then they will pass all of those to us that meet our minimum qualifications, and then we will pick it up from there. And there is a clause in the contract that if we don't successfully find a candidate, they will continue to search for no additional fee. So there is some protection built in if we go through an initial round and there's no identified candidate.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but Frothman is who we used to find Mark.
Yep.
He turned out okay. All right, so I'll make a motion then to approve item C, approve the proposal for services and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Frothman for the Public Works Director recruitment not to exceed $10,200.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Spencer. Any other comments? All those in favor? please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. All right, we have D, approve the proposal for services and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Rothman for the city engineer recruitment not to exceed $9,200. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Spencer. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. And then item P, authorize the mayor to sign a lease termination document with Bentgrass LLC. Mark, you want to, or Mayor, do you want to take this one?
Well, I think Councilmember Dunn is the one who asked to move it, so
Thank you. My only observation is to provide some context to this one. I think it's the first introduction of this action to our community.
yeah, good point. Thank you. Yeah, since this was an executive session. Mark, you want to go through?
Sure, and I'm gonna potentially rely on Kyle and Lisa to provide some additional context as we go through this. So essentially, as you all know, we entered into a lease agreement with a restaurant vendor some time ago. And the terms of that agreement were that the individual vendor was going to be responsible for some prorated utility costs. And then when they moved into the restaurant space, or January 1st, 2024, whichever was sooner, they would start paying rent that was defined by the lease. And so neither of those things happened. And so we were facing a proposition of having a vendor in default. And we've had some discussions with council along the way as we kind of learned of these things and detected that there may be a problem. And so this really came down to the vendors, the original vendors' ability to acquire financing for the project. And so that has been the discussion all along with the original vendor. And we as a city wanted to make sure that we were giving every opportunity to not pull a quick trigger and, allow them the opportunity to find financing, and even in some ways through creative channels. And that just never materialized. And so at the end of the day, there was a conversation and a mutual decision was reached between the city and the vendor, the two parties in the lease agreement, to terminate the agreement so that the city would then be freed up and to go out and find another vendor to take up the restaurant space and Trailhead. And so that's what the termination will allow us to do. And staff is in a position to start that process very quickly. And so if there are other questions, or Kyle and Lisa, feel free, please, to add some additional context from your perspectives on this. But if there are any questions, we'll be happy to field those.
Lisa or Kyle, anything you want to add to that?
Mark summed it up pretty well. So yeah, this is basically allows us the quick turnaround that we're seeking to get a restaurant vendor in there as soon as possible.
And we will be coming back with a contract to begin the approval process at your next council meeting, or the recruitment process, excuse me.
Okay. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the lease termination document with Bentgrass LLC.
Seconded.
Second by Councilmember Dunn. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right, we are now complete with general business items, so we'll move on to council comments. Item 12 in the agenda. Council comments.
I would just say, be sure to take in the Ag Show this week.
Yes, that's right.
Something you don't see everywhere.
The what show?
The
Ag
Ag
Show.
Show, an expo at Spokane
Yeah.
Convention Center,
Oh.
gathering
Agriculture.
all of those people in agriculture.
Big equipment.
Anything else, council members Kurtz or Kennedy?
None.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to public hearings and appeals. We have none. We will move on to resolutions. Resolution 14A.
Resolution number 24
I'm
dash
sorry.
two.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That was-
Kelsey.
yeah,
I said the
that's
wrong
the item.
resolution number.
That's the
You
item
knew what I
number.
meant.
Resolution number 24 257, a resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington, adopting the qualifications for the Public Works Director.
Okay. Any?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move resolution 2457.
Okay.
57.
Seconded?
Seconded by Councilmember Van Orman. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Orman.
In the resolution, it states, and I'm trying to get to the resolution right here, about being a PE, that it was optional. I think at this particular point, knowing that some of the specifics within the past couple of years, we need to have that not optional, but as a prerequisite for a PE to be part of that.
Is that, was that for the Public Works Director or for the?
That's for the Public Works Director. It's
Mark's ready. Mark can address that. We've discussed that at length.
So are we, is that a question, Councilmember Van Orman, or?
Well, kind of a question and kind of a statement that we really need to have our Public Works Director be a PE.
Okay. So, if we look at the, so I don't disagree with the, sentiment that, if we can attract a professional engineer, through the recruitment, we have that preference in there. So that allows us to give preferential treatment to candidates that have the license. My concern with making that a requirement is that most public works folks don't come from an engineering background. Most traditional public works folks come from either street construction or water or wastewater operations. And I realize we don't purvey our own water and wastewater system, but traditionally that's where the prototypical public works folks come from. And so although we would absolutely be thrilled to get someone with a professional engineering license, my concern would be if we made that a requirement, we would be limiting the field and filtering out very qualified candidates that could come in and transform the department into the department that we envision.
Well, you also had attached onto that resolution that they would get it within a year. So that would take care of that portion. It's just very important that we have a PE on board at the city.
Wendy, can you get close to your mic, please? Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
No, just stating that very important to have a PE on the city staff.
Well, remember, we are also hiring for our city engineer, and that is a requirement.
Thanks. I'm grateful, Chris. I want to recognize the Public Works Director manages the city engineer who has a required PE. Is that correct?
Remind me, city engineer is still going to be reporting through Lisa, right?
So in the current org chart, the city engineer would be a direct report to the planning and engineering director. However, in some future shakeup of the organization, if that position was reporting to the public works director, that position would still be equipped with a professional engineering license, regardless of where it sat in the organization.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, so my question is regard to salary. The salary is what is based on, if we hire somebody with a PE, is that salary higher because of that? Or is the individual, if we hire, does not have a PE, is the salary the same as if they had a PE?
So if I understand your question and redirect me if I'm answering a question you're not asking. In this particular case, for the Public Works Director, the salary band would be determined by the position and where it sits in the organization structure. There may be some, once you got into a salary negotiation, as you were zeroing in on a candidate, if that person who we were zeroing in on had a PE and we wanted to consider that in the experience education category for setting that salary in the band, we could absolutely do that. But there wouldn't be like an automatic bump per se if somebody had a PE versus not.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 24257. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Do we need to do?
Aye.
comment first?
Yeah, we need to
Do we
do
need to-
citizen comments on
On
resolutions, yeah.
resolution, I beg your pardon. We will take the vote in a second. Are there any citizen comments? And Mike, do you want to still comment or is that a previous hand?
No,
Okay.
no, I was fine with Mark's answer.
Any comments online? Okay, now we'll move on to vote. All those in favor of approving resolution numbers 24-257, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye, or opposed.
Okay. Resolution passes 6-1. All right, we have no ordinances and no emergency ordinances. Introduction of upcoming agenda items.
I don't have Mark and I don't have a copy of the spreadsheet. Kelsey, is there any way for you to share that
Probably.
on screen? Thanks, Chris.
Scan 1 second.
It's a little blurry that way. My glasses are strong, but not quite.
Nice try.
While Kelsey's doing that, Chris,
Well, that's better.
That is better, but hold on.
No way. But I like seeing your eyeball, Chris.
No.
Chris, while Kelsey's looking that up, Dan, while the meeting was going on, Kelsey and I were looking at the resolutions for STA. And there is resolutions in the past that had first, second, and in the event those two participants could not attend, then a mayor of one of the other cities would participate on behalf of the city of Clear Lake. So it didn't get down to voting. It just said of here, who's the first individual, who's the second individual. And if those two people are not present, then the third person. And to the extent that that person would be voting, they would step in the shoes and vote.
Thanks. That resolution by number?
So there, that particular resolution was 24 or 21. 21-284. It's 3 years ago. And I think the requirement for resolution was from STA. I think STA wanted the resolution to have that because I think when we appointed the last time, there wasn't a resolution, but it wasn't because the city required that you had to appoint it. I think STA had asked for a resolution. So the extent you want to do something, and there were similar ones from the years before, that's how it was handled. Now you guys can obviously do it differently if you want to, but that's how it was done in the past. So to the extent, so in this case, if there was a mayor, Chris from Cheney, if neither Dan or Chris Cargill weren't present, then one of the other mayors then could participate.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a February 20th, reviewing and updating city council rules of procedure. And February 20th, city council committees. Are we still good on those? Mayor and Mark and Annie and Dan?
Yeah, 20th.
Yeah, I looked at Councilmember Kurtz and Dunn for those two.
Yeah, on the reviewing of city council rules and procedures, if there's a way to get council members, everybody a copy of our most recent updated one, and everybody have a chance to look through those for people that weren't on the council when we reviewed them in 2021. And just a little bit of, just tiny bit of backstory about the reason that I want to talk about this too. Mayor Pro Tem's talked a little bit about transparency and agendas and publication of those. So I feel like that fits under this. But even as an example, I had wanted to move a couple of the agenda items from consent to general business, and want to make sure we're all on the same page with the process to do that if it needs to happen in a meeting, or if we can do that when we get the draft agenda. So just talking about what makes the most sense operationally for us all, and making sure we're all on the same page with that. So as you guys look through those, just wanted to have a workshop so we can all have a good discussion about it next time we meet.
Sounds good. Yeah, Kelsey, can you take that action to send the most recent one out?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Mark, we have 2 outstanding items from the last meeting. I know you were going to get back to us on code of ethics for social media and proposed transparency ordinance. Do we want to add those to March 5th?
We can tentatively add those to March 5th. We will be in a much better position on February 20th to let you know if we'll be ready to have those discussions. It's quite possible that we'll be ready on one, but not the other. But let us come back on the 20th and give a final answer, but let's put them in as tentative for that date.
Okay. And then do we want to add the SDA board discussion to one of these dates?
I think that may be resolved based on the resolution that's on hand.
Okay. Okay. We can circle back, I guess, next meeting if we think it's not. Sure. Okay.
Yep. And are we still on for the joint workshop with community engagement on March 5th? And I'm assuming we're looking at 6 o'clock for that. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And so we'll be able to figure out between now and the meeting on the 20th, if there's anything more that we need to put on for March 5th.
Okay. All right. Anything else anyone wants to add?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Kennedy, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, one of the things I'd like to add in reference to the library space. I know when we looked at building a library and expanding that, we looked at what would we do with that space that was there. And what was discussed at the time and sort of fell by the wayside is that we felt that we could find somebody to rent that space for excess of $100,000 a year. I would like to put it on the discussion some future, maybe in the next quarter, to discuss that, what we could utilize that space for. And my idea is that we could rent that out because we had some interest in the past when we were looking at that several years ago, and dedicate the funds that we bring in from that to go towards the library budget, thereby reducing that budget as time goes on.
Okay. So Kelsey just added that as well. And then it's hard to believe, but we're almost halfway through the first quarter. So we had discussed talking about the library funding as well in the first quarter when we discussed the library ordinance and budget in December. So I think, if I remember correctly, Kyle was going to bring us back some numbers on that. And is that right?
So, Mayor Pro Tem, our plan at this point is to have that discussion during the March 19th meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to citizen comments. Just a reminder, 3 minutes if you would like to make a comment. Please not all at once. For those online, just put your hand up and we will get to your comments momentarily, and we will advance you to a panelist. Citizen comments going once, citizen comments going twice. All right, no citizen comments. We have no executive sessions. And if there's no opposition, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.